Perfect. All right, let's open up this meeting. There's some new people here. We'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. If you're so inclined. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It's super fun. Just making sure it's on.
Perfect. Good evening, everybody. Today is August 28th. This is the Greater Rutland County Supervisory Union Board meeting. We're here in the West Rutland School. Moving through the agenda, I see the first thing we have come up is the approval of the minutes of our last meeting on June 19th.
Can we add one agenda item?
Yes, I just ignored the whole consent agenda and just got it at the end.
Okay.
That's fine.
I'll move the adoption of the minutes as presented.
A second of that?
Second.
Any discussion? Anybody need more time? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
Do we have a recorder tonight?
We have a recorder right here, and we will give it to her tomorrow. It's being recorded on a recorder. She can't come.
Okay.
Who is the clerk of the board?
Oh, yeah. That's
You
what
are,
I'm-
Clarence?
What I'm worried
Right.
about.
We'll
I
be
need
okay.
to-
Shauna's
Fine.
pretty
If
quick.
it's being taken care of, fine, I just don't
We
want
have
to.
arrangements with Shauna. I'm recording it. She's got it on television, and Louis is getting the recorder to her tomorrow.
Okay, and if we, so
I
probably,
will take, I'll write down,
probably when we move something, we need to state our name clearly, because
yes.
won't be able to recognize the voice. So I moved that we approved, that Clarence moved to approve the minutes.
That was seconded by
Jim.
Jim.
Jim Mumford seconded the motion.
This is going to be a strange meeting
I'm
tonight.
writing down the motions. I'm
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
We'll be
I'll
keep track of the motions.
Gotta
We
have a
survived,
little levity.
we survived
been
last
awkward.
time with just the recorder, and all came out
Thank you, Judy.
beautiful. No problem.
Is that a unanimous vote too? Did we even vote on that? No.
We did. We did.
And that was unanimous.
We are, yeah.
All right. And just to make it easy too for Shauna, who will be recording this sometime later, present tonight, we have Clarence, we have Eric, we got Meredith, we have Laura, we got Kelly, we have Tim, Corrine, Matt, Linda, Jim, Lisa, and that's it for board members. And everybody here is a voting board member, correct?
No.
Who's,
We only
actually,
have
we have
three.
one, so you only have three, so one person is not a voting member over there. Who's that?
Probably
Tonight.
me.
So Meredith is here this evening, she's not a voting member. Everybody else has one vote this evening, so, and then it's, accounting's terrible, I did go to Rutland High. Is that 10? Do we have a full 10?
Yeah, we have a full 10.
All right, thank you, Lisa, perfect. Approval of the warrants was already signed, do we have to actually approve those, or,
We do.
all right.
Clarence moved to approve the warrants as presented.
Second.
Where's the listing of the warrants on the agenda, the numbers and the amounts?
They're sent to you in your email.
I know that. But if we reference them on the agenda, don't we usually reference them on the Berkshire agenda?
No,
No.
never.
Oh, they are on ours.
No,
We
we
do in
voted
Well
not to.
Springs.
That's why we're used to seeing
Oh,
them,
okay, yep.
the number and the amount on the agenda.
Do you have the numbers and the amounts that we're approving that have already been signed?
The, Lewis got the folders there, or they're back over here, which one?
Just to,
I've got them.
There's one original that I think Judy has.
I have
Yep,
it. Would you
Judy's
like
got
to
it.
see it, Laura?
I would just make it a part of the motion. That was
The numbers?
the assignment numbers for clarity.
Tell me where that is, Louis. What's the assignment number? On the top.
No offense, I just want to skip that, if I can, but are you,
Okay.
Okay,
Accounts
number
payable.
36.
Yeah. It's no offense if
Number
it's in the motion.
39. Number 40. 41. 42. That's a lot because it's the whole summer. 43. 43. 44. 45. 46. More 46s. 47. I just want to check the front one, please. 36, 36. Did I say 39?
Yes.
Okay, that's it.
Thank you, Judy.
Perfect. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Superintendent's report.
Well, you can have it for review, but I think you've all heard it because it's basically the same one that goes through all the boards. So if you want me to go through it again, I can.
Nope. Let's skip that.
Okay.
Anybody have any questions tonight?
The only question is, I saw that the lead testing came out. Are any of us currently on that list? No.
None of our schools are in the first sampling group. They did
Actually,
just
the
release the second
second
one
one-
today.
yeah.
I haven't.
If it was today, I wouldn't know, Lisa,
Okay.
because I was busy all day visiting
Okay.
schools.
Visiting schools, yep.
I have not had a chance to review that.
Okay.
Would you entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Sure. Motion's on the floor.
Second, by Clarence.
Second to that. And so at this point, discussion, you wanted to add a couple of things on there, Judy?
Yes, I did. Under personnel, I would like to add B, tutor position approval, and then C would be the contract recommendations, because we actually have a position we want to talk about before we present the contract
Tuition
recommendations.
approval. And the contract recommendation?
Becomes C. Okay? That's it. That's the only change.
Any further discussion on this? All those in favor to approve the consent agenda?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Personnel, resignations.
This actually, just so you know, this was updated, what's in your packet is updated from what you received from Wendy in the electronic packet. There were a couple of changes.
If there isn't any reason that we can't handle this as one motion, I would make a motion to approve the resignations and retirements as presented tonight.
I'll second. Any discussion, questions?
Does this result in any open positions?
I'm going to refer this a little bit. The para position in Wells is, well, it wasn't Wells, it was a different school. Is that filled or is that open?
We have a couple para positions. I'm not sure they're directly related to,
Okay.
at this point, retirements, or if they're because we've had new students
Yep.
in flux.
There was only one that I wondered about,
Yeah.
giving names.
So I got a motion. Who seconded that? Was that Eric?
Eric?
So Eric seconded that. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Contract recommendations.
No, tutor position. You added that in there.
So what's that? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Tutor position.
I'm going to ask Christine to speak to this. This is a proposal that Christine has regarding a new position. So take it away.
Okay, so really over the last year or so, we've had quite a few students for a multitude of reasons that have required being on a tutorial program. So they're not attending school, they're just getting tutoring. We've been kind of piecemealing that together by doing a lot of additional hours with staff after school. It's becoming to the point where the hours and what we have is really requiring a full-time person to cover those tutorials. And what we're trying to do is they also, some of those students have IEP requirements, services. So then we've had to have someone go do sort of the gen ed tutoring part, and then the special educators get out there and find ways and times to meet with the student to do the IEP services. So we have a staff member who does have a teaching certification, and is open to going and receiving a provisional, working on his provisional in special education, so we can combine that as one position, so they can do the full package while they're out there, and we can get this done as a regular during the day and meet these student needs. Louis and I have talked about it, and between some IDB funding and some Medicaid funding, we can handle this position. So,
Can I ask a couple questions? Can you, I know you have to protect confidentiality, but can you kind of say some reasons why they're online, and then roughly how many students?
some are because of doctor notes that come in saying that they're unable to attend. It could be medical reason. It could be restrictions because of policy, school agendas.
And just question if you can answer this. I remember hearing this a while ago, though, but someone, I could have swore I was here for a debate that took place about people needed to come to the school for services, that we weren't going out. So is that incorrect then, my understanding?
We're going out. Most of these are happening off-site of the schools, the tutorials.
But I remember hearing that. Does anybody recall this in any of
I
the
think, are you talking about maybe
or any of your boards that?
preschool stuff?
Well, that was
now?
OT and SLP
Yeah.
and things like that. That's separate from
Right,
those.
right.
Okay, so by law, though, we have to go out and provide this service.
We have to provide some educational program. We
Okay, and
have
it's gonna
to
make
do-
it more efficient for your office to add this position?
Absolutely.
And it
And it
looks
will
like-
work throughout the SU. It's not one particular school. This is going to be,
Do you know what the funding's gonna cost for that? Or how much it is gonna cost?
it's going to be basically a teacher's position.
And roughly how many students do we serve with that position?
Right now, we're serving about 6 students in that capacity.
16 students?
6,
Oh, 6.
The possible 7.
yeah, possibly, yeah.
And can you remind us what our obligation is in time that we are required?
Yeah, for a high school student, it is, it's 2 hours per core content class. And for elementary, I believe it's
I
like
think it's 10 hours.
10 hours.
Per week?
Yep.
Yes.
Any other questions?
And some of the children Christine discussed with me, could be maybe small groups, as we get, if more kids come on, it doesn't have to be a one-to-one. They could provide these services in small groups, so if you look at 6, that's a full slate, but then you could always double.
How are you
down.
providing small groups outside of a school setting
Yeah.
that we don't have liability issues with then? When you're talking about students that are on IEPs?
We're talking about, like, in some places, we have used, like, town hall meeting rooms and things like that. That's how we've serviced.
That would baffle me, though. The only reason I say that is why can't they then come to the school? Why you would end up-
Sometimes it's an issue where, for whatever reason, they don't want to be in the school.
Okay.
So it's really individual
You're right.
upon the children.
And how many hours a week is it?
Well, that's what, if we're
teacher
looking at, the students, I
37.5.
mean, probably we have, yeah.
But in terms of like serving the student,
Yeah,
like,
so if we have 6 to 8 students, I mean, we're actually talking more than a full week's worth of hours.
I think
They would-
60
hours.
60
Yeah,
hours just for
right.
the 10 hours of
10 hours,
elementary,
right.
and
And
then
it's
how many
close to 10.
subjects for high school?
Right, for your
At least
So-
4.
So it does, and that's why we're saying, like I said,
Another
it's
50
become,
hours.
to try to even find people and fit these in by doing it after school and pulling people, we're not meeting.
And it's
efficient,
probably
not
costing
efficient.
more.
Yeah. Because you just keep paying, and it's
Overtime.
different people, and then they have to be working under the teacher, because it just,
Any further
No,
questions?
I don't think so.
Where you're using teachers to
Yes,
fill in
just- it
this
was added to the
after
agenda.
hours, how are we compensating them, or are we not? Is
yeah,
it-
we are.
We are.
They bill the hours.
No.
and
They
it's
bill the
based on
hours at an
Because we put
overtime
that
rate,
as
we pay them?
Stipend.
There's
They get a
rate in the
special-
contract that was $25 an hour for after-school activities. It's $30
it's
in the
30
new
an hour.
contract. It's been 25 for many, many, many years.
Yeah.
And actually, in this instance, there was a para that was doing a lot of it, and it was a para during the day, but he was also certified as a teacher, so he was getting the teacher rate for the tutoring and para rate during the day.
What's, I know you get into averages, it doesn't work. The average teacher, what's their hourly rate?
It's the average. I mean, if you look at the bottom of the scale, it's 41,000. So you're looking at about almost $30 an hour at the bottom of the scale, and almost 60 at the top of the scale.
So the $30 is not that far out of line from straight pay.
No, it's actually it's been lower than even the bottom of the scale for many, many years.
I was just curious. When we're compensating somebody on an hourly basis, it's like to know how that fits in against their salary. Okay, thank you.
So I would disagree with the proposal about, I have been a facility where children have been sent with tutors. It is inappropriate. It is, you talk about confidentiality,
I
it's
agree
broke
with
on
that
every
setting.
single level.
I agree with that setting.
Town halls, libraries in Vermont do not have small separate rooms to set up to have that kind of facility.
Actually, Lisa, we do at West Rutland
Well,
Town Hall. And
okay,
that's where we're
then
looking
that's-
to
then you have one
contract a space.
exception.
Right, we're looking
Then you ha-
to
then
work a space
that-
there.
Now you have one. I have been put in that position multiple
I
times.
understand that.
Notification is not given. Teachers and or students and tutors simply show up, and you're put in a very untenable situation. So I hope I hope that everyone we're doing, has a doctor's, or for some reason it's on an IEP. I think there have been multiple ones that are questionable, and I see this as the opportunity to allow something like this to grow and put us at a disadvantage. I still question being able to do it in a small group setting and falling within your confidentiality outside of the school setting.
Any other questions? Comments?
What is the, could you repeat the person, the title, and the rate for me?
Yeah, the person we're proposing
the
for this
last one on
position is.
Oh, it is on
Oh,
the
for
paper.
Martina, I
It
see.
says-
Okay.
it
Thank
says
you, Judy.
We
Special
weren't sure.
education tutor position.
Since it was added on, we weren't sure.
Yes, that's it.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
No, it's fine.
I make a motion to, Matt, would you entertain a motion to approve the contract recommendations as presented?
Absolutely. Do I have a second to that?
I'll second.
Seconds to that. Any further discussion? All those in
I would hope during budget season, we come back and discuss this. I don't want to be adding, I seriously dislike, as we have started a new budget cycle, and this seemingly happens all of the time. We start July 1, we have worked on a budget from December to the mid-February, and now we're 1 month in, and I'm doubtful that these 6 students just suddenly showed up within this SU, and you're coming and asking for a position.
All those in
Did I
favor?
understand this?
No.
It's the last one on the support staff list is the individual we're talking about?
Yes.
On the resignation page.
On the
On the,
resignation.
He's at the bottom of the page.
Right, it says
On
support
the
staff.
contract recommendation
recommendation.
page, he's under professional staff.
Really?
let's just skip that.
Oh, all right. Okay, accepted we're creating that special ed tutor position. It's what this motion is. Okay,
Well, the motion is to, yeah, right, to just approve the contract recommendation and create the title or the position.
that's what we're doing.
That's not what I said.
Creating a new position, a month and a half into a new budget cycle. For pre-existing students.
But it's consolidating an already existing issue, and it may.
I don't know that it's consolidating. That is not what's been said.
Well-
You're creating a position that in
eliminating
other districts,
para.
we have been using teachers that are retired. We weren't paying, so I don't know.
You weren't paying the teacher?
No, we were using retired teachers in
We're
some.
still paying an hourly rate.
I understand that.
It's
But
not
the
a
money
totally
isn't
new
a huge
expense,
thing.
it's just a shift from an hourly rate to an on-staff position.
So there
It
is
may
a
not be one for one,
benefit.
but it is in some degree a shift.
Staff with benefits.
This is my concern though, Lisa. I mean, this comes up occasionally with technology. It's coming up now with special ed, but we gotta be flexible here. I mean, we're a giant school district now with, over 2,000 people, teachers, students and everything. Things are gonna change and we're making something more efficient. We shouldn't have to wait until next year and you guys suffer through another year. We can be flexible enough like we are. We're shifting money, changing things around, but even if we added a new position, if we find a weakness that opens up, I don't think it's responsible to say, we're gonna wait till next budget cycle. If Lewis can find the money, we can use it out of a surplus, that we just get it done. I think we're supposed to be flexible. I just don't want the staff and, not staff, but administration feeling like you can't come to us. We need to be more efficient. We need to make changes, and we shouldn't just pile up to the end of the year and hope we remember everything that needs to be in there. I think we should be flexible and make these changes fluid as we go throughout the year, but in this
I'm
one,
not-
I don't think it's
And I-
possible.
I'm not debating that, but this is a,
Creative to solve an issue that we have of how do we cover all these kids with staff who aren't required to work after hours, who, you get some people, but I can't cover all those
Plus it's all the
kids
scheduling
after
and-
hours and scheduling and where and,
I appreciate the creativity.
yeah, I mean, so this is, when we had an opportunity, the person who was doing a lot of the after-school and has had an interest and did come to me saying, I would like to pursue my special ed certification. It seemed like a great way to cover both services without having two people go to work with one student.
Who would know
And trying
better?
to find the time to, okay, you're working with this person now, you work with this person then, we gotta have two separate schedules going for each child. It really was, how can we make this efficient all around and not be, really blowing up a budget?
Are we replacing his para position?
Yes.
We call a vote on this one. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Just as a note of information, just in this past week, we have 15 new IEP students who have registered in our SU.
so I would,
15.
15 new
Across
IEP.
the SU, just this past week. That's like in the last week or so that we have been new enrollments.
Is that a net gain, or did we lose some too?
We, maybe 2 or 3 lost, so, yeah. It's a big net gain.
so I would say the conversation, and we've had this conversation multiple times at this table, about consolidating for students that have additional needs, and we've talked about that to no avail. And now that I look at our school in particular, where space is at a premium because general ed will soon be pushed out. I mean, every available space that we have is being used for services other than general ed at this point. I mean, we've lost a conference room. We have one hall that essentially every room is used for students that have needs. That should be one of our goals looking forward this year, how we are consolidating that. Hiring a tutor is great. That's really not addressing the significant problem that we discussed when we sat as Rutland Central, and as we discussed when we first merged together during Act 46. And I think it has to be seriously considered.
Of where do we locate an alternative program? We're looking at some options. I've been having some conversations with Judy, so. But the space in all the schools to try, where do we, to put that program or programs?
Thank you, Christine.
Thank you.
We appreciate you coming tonight. Thanks. Moving on, next, we're gonna go to the recommendations. What did you adjust the? Do you want to?
Oh, we did it. That was.
It was included under C.
That was included in the
Yeah.
recommendations
Yes.
and the
Yes.
resignations. They were
Yes.
both together.
Yep.
Okay, so what do we need next?
Banking resolutions.
That's it, so we're done with that. Moving on to the banking resolutions. Lewis?
When we first merged, we had to approve banking resolutions as a new entity. Every time someone left, an administrator who was listed on those, we had to approve new banking resolutions. We're changing things so that we don't have to do a new banking resolution each time we get a new superintendent. So last year, actually, you approved 2 banking resolutions. You approved one when we first merged, and then you approved another one like 2 or 3 months later, allowing us to be able to change superintendents. The banking resolution you're approving today is to add a second name to the credit card resolution so that 2 people have access to the credit cards as an administrator. So right now, I'm the only one listed, and we're adding the assistant business manager to those, so that if I'm not available, somebody else has the authority to take people off, add people, change credit lines, stuff like that. And you've seen these at each of your local board meetings. At your local board meetings, you're seeing the credit card resolution, but you're also seeing the other resolution to avoid us having to come back to the board each time we change superintendents.
I don't see a copy of that in my packet. Did I miss something?
No, I think we have 2 contract recommendations.
One's resignations, one's
I
recommendations.
do have it here. I could run off some copies.
I don't know that I need to have a copy.
I'm fine without a copy. Anybody need a copy or want to see what Lewis has?
It's the same as that you've seen in your local boards. Probably just the first sheet is all I need.
Did anybody want to?
You want to just show it to?
Yeah, does anybody want to see this? We don't even need to go get a copy.
Pass it around the table like that. Save a tree.
Yeah.
Well, we're
Just
passing it.
simply adding the assistant
We're adding the
business
assistant
manager?
business manager to the credit card account. Yeah.
So every time either you or her change, you or
Do have 2 contract
those
recommendations.
positions change, we gotta have a new resolution?
If one of the 2 of us leave, yes. But this is so that there's somebody else on the account in case. So if I left, then there would be nobody around to be able to make changes.
Currently, it's you and Deborah.
No, currently it's just me. We're adding a second
When
person.
it was set up with just for
Yeah.
you?
Not getting any ideas, are you, Lewis?
No.
Do I have a motion to
I
approve?
move that we approve the resolution to add the assistant business manager to the credit card account.
I think you should second it to make it easy on Mike.
Clarence made that motion.
By Jim Mumford.
Judy's keeping track of this. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
I just want to move it forward.
Motion carries unanimously.
Same thing we did.
So Power School update. The state did approve the delay of the implementation of Power School. So we have delayed our implementation as well. We're currently scheduled to implement Power School on January 1st, 2021.
Do they have the statement of accounts done yet, the agency?
There was a chart of accounts change this late spring. So it's still changing.
It's quite a ways out. 2021.
There are people that implemented this past July, so 2 big SUs. So, I mean, our thought is let some of the other people go and work out all the bugs, and this way we don't have to go through that.
Hopefully.
Makes sense. HRA update?
I believe that's it. So make it into the packet. I think it's the last thing. It looks like this. So completed our first plan year on the new health plans with the HRAs. So just to remind everybody, if you have a health insurance and you have a two-person or family plan, it comes along with an HRA of $4,200. If you have a single plan, it comes along with an HRA of $2,100. We budgeted on the usage of those HRAs based on 80% utilization. It was kind of just an educated guess based on no history that we had, but what other people have had in that market. So after our first plan year closed, we were looking at utilization of approximately 58%. So there was some savings versus what we had budgeted. And those savings were reflected in your local budgets. Some of those savings were eaten up by other things that were not anticipated. And I explained those in all of your local boards in my summaries. Any questions on that?
Does anybody want to go through a monthly budget update, or can we just skip that and leave it to any questions for Louis?
I'd like a little explanation of the front page.
So we ended the year with a surplus of $21,000. I've listed some of the major variances for the year and what the assessment refund would equal if and when you decide to refund that amount. We have a few options. We could refund that this year. We could refund it next year and plan for that in our FY21 budgets. It's up to the board. That's always the way I've handled it in the past. We've made a decision at the SU level to either refund it in the current year, which would hit this year's books as an unexpected revenue, or we can refund it, plan for it in the next year's budgets as a revenue in your local budgets. You can make that decision tonight, or you can make it at a future meeting. Just let me know.
Clarence moves that the refund be granted immediately in this year's budget, as we have an unanticipated expense this year, and this will help balance it out.
Second to that motion. Laura? Laura seconds the motion. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Under the discussion, I know we called the vote, am I on the wrong page? I think I am on the wrong page, I'm sorry. You can go on. It's under special ed.
So I'll refund that in FY20. The only last piece I have is something that's going around. It's just a quick food service update. I've been asked the question at some of the local board meetings, and I've also will be attaching this in your local board meetings in September as well. How to feed everybody for free. So there's currently two ways to do that with the state, two different state provisions. One's called CEP, or Community Eligibility Provision. That provision you have to qualify for based on your direct certifications. Did it make it all the way around?
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
If you go with the CEP, it has to be for both lunch and breakfast. You eliminate at the application process by parents, so there's no qualifications, everybody qualifies. But in order for you to participate, the school has to qualify. Reimbursement is based on 1.6 times the direct certification percentage. So let's say you have 50% of your population that's directly certified, then you take the 50% times the 1.6, and that's what you get reimbursed for. So you really have to have a high direct certification in order for it to be, to not cost you a lot of money. Right, currently, Wells Springs would be the only district that's close to qualifying, and it would cost them approximately $30,000 to implement free meals under this provision, on top of the $60,000 that they already paid for their program. The other provision is Provision 2. This program allows you to serve meals at no cost, and in this provision, you can choose to do it either for breakfast or lunch or both. You have that flexibility. It does not eliminate the parent application process. People still apply for free and reduced. You don't have to qualify. Any school can participate. your reimbursements are based on the participation of the free and reduced kids. So it's really beneficial to you to promote the free and reduced students to participate in the lunch program. And in some cases, that's not 100%. It's based on a base year. Polney Elementary did it for the last 2 years. They're not doing it this year. They were able to do it through a grant funding. If for them to continue to do it, it was going to cost them approximately $15,000 to $20,000 a year. So they eliminated it for this year going forward. To initiate the program, we would have to go out to bid because we'd have a large increase in meals and participation, so we'd want to get a lower per meal price. And in order to do that, we'd have to go out to bid. And just based on the estimates we have now with our current rates, it would cost over $400,000 additional money to offer this program in all of our schools. On the back is just a little bit of information too on the outstanding food service balances. This is, I know, another hot topic that we've had at local meetings and the SU meeting. We're continuing to try and collect. We'll be implementing some new steps in the process, some trainings, templates, trying to streamline and centralize items over the course of the next year.
Do you know how much the balance, is it somewhere the balance, what it currently?
We ended the year, it was approximately $20,000 for the full SU.
Okay.
When you say it's up to each school, do you mean each school building or each district? I assume district.
The school, it's managed at the school building level, so if, say, a student moves out and that balance is deemed uncollectible because they're no longer in that school. So the school secretary or the lunch person would be the worst person that needs to clear those balances.
Is that one of the areas that you're going to try to streamline, or you think that's the best way to do it?
I had discussions with secretaries and lunch people last year to try to get those cleaned up. Some of them did, some of them didn't. So I think the first thing to do is to start meeting with secretaries, go through the process that everybody has, with that as well as the application process and updating their master list and stuff like that. Making sure everybody's following a process, kind of streamline a process so that kind of fill in some of the gaps and cracks that we may have and hopefully bring these balances lower.
Have we tried with the company that we contract with to get them to waive the fee for parents to put money on their accounts?
I think I actually I have that on my list. I spoke to, maybe it was you, because I spoke to somebody else I spoke to had the same, is to talk to, right now, there's a fee if you want to pay with your credit card. Whether you're in Polteny, that you use a different program than if you're in some of the old Rutland Central schools. But if you go online and want to put $100 on your son's account or daughter's account, you pay a fee for your credit card. Right now, the parent is paying those fees. There is the option of us covering those fees, but that's an additional cost for us. So we need to see, I need to look at what those fees are and would it outweigh the uncollected balances. A lot of it is paid by credit card, so I think the fees probably would outweigh the uncollected balances.
The fees would outweigh the
For us to cover the fees, it would outweigh.
Really?
Is there a difference between a credit card and a debit card?
No, there's still a fee. I don't think so.
I'm not positive, but
There's still a fee.
And they don't do electronic checks.
those are all things I'm going to look into this year and work with food service people and secretaries to try to get those processes in place.
They don't take
Everybody's
electronic, they take personal checks. I usually go down and just write and pay cash.
But often on those sites, electronic check is another option, but
Oh, yeah.
for whatever reason, they're not.
But I would say you can certainly go pay.
And they usually
But I don't want to be a snob about it. I mean, some people may actually be putting this on a credit card because they don't have the cash in the bank, so I don't want to. But at the same time, that's how I pay, is just go in there with cash and let the balance build up and pay it down. So that's been our traditional route, so I don't know what the numbers are, but anyway.
I have one more thing for Louis. It's back on the special ed board report. Would you allow that?
Have at it.
What is the plan for trying to avoid the special ed staff performing so many regular ed duties that we had the variances? in the budget. For Wells Springs was almost 50,000, 62 was 33.
I think that's actually probably a question that Christine could answer better, but we're hoping that seeing those bill backs is sort of
Wake up
on a
call.
wake-up call for both boards and principals, that when you use your special ed staff for duties that they're not necessarily intended for, like recess duty, lunch duty, or tutoring, or anything that's not special ed or based on an IEP, that cost is gonna move from the SU to your local budget, and it could have an impact. So it's no longer reimbursable. But
We
you
have-
can talk about it
we've been-
more.
We've been talking about that a little bit too, with even under the new contract, with the use of staff for duties, like lunch duties and stuff. And when you're pulling your special educators or your SLPs to cover those duties, which need to be covered by someone, but you're paying a lot of money, and it's really drawing them away from contact hours with kids that they really need. So again, I think my recommendation has been for quite a few years that we do need to hire like gen ed paras to sort of cover those duties, instead of us trying to figure out all the minutes that staff have worked with gen ed. And then if we don't bill it back now and we go through an audit, it's
It'll
gonna
come
come
back.
later, and I don't
Oh,
want
yeah.
that happening.
No,
2 years down the road, you suddenly go, whoa.
No, I'm glad that you caught it here.
But I agree, it is, and there were some, I think, special circumstances this year, there that really increased. That with the use of shifting some time to gen ed, which is more than what's typical, but I do think, it would really benefit the schools to look at, and probably with their buildings, to say, how much time do you need to cover those services? And does it make a lot more sense, rather than that bill back of time, to just hire someone for
Yeah.
the hours you need covered?
I think I think it's starting to get some traction as far as with the administrators, and I think you're gonna hear it at local board meetings with them coming to your boards requesting like a 2-hour-a-day position for these type of lunch monitor, rather than a full-time person, no benefits, just 2 hours in the middle of the day to cover lunch or recess duties, so that we're not utilizing people that are making $30 to $60 to $75 an hour when we can be using a para for those positions.
I think we've all been guilty, at least, are cutting back on general education paras, not adding staff. Very aware of that, and I guess what happens, they've been utilizing special ed people where they could, and now the money gets transferred to us, we take a $50,000 hit at the end of the year, and I say, this has got to stop. Whatever we need to do to fix this, we got to work at, because if that was going on, and it's got to stop.
And we knew what was happening going in, and we estimate that for budget times, we estimated 15% for all paras, that 15% of their time was for regular ed activities. And so when we built the budgets, that was built into both the local budget and the special ed budget for 15%. So this additional billbacks that you're seeing is above and beyond the 15%. Some of it was for special educators who we didn't budget anything for, because we figured their time should be 100% special ed. But some of it was for paras who exceeded that 15%. And some were maybe at 40 and some were at 5%, but the average is coming in higher than the 15%.
Okay, thank you.
So what is the frequency of the time study process, twice a year?
It's done twice a year, that's
That's
what
what I
we
understood.
take an average, we take what's their typical schedule and utilize that, so it's not even like, okay, today a student was out, so it's what they typically would be doing. And then we, line by line, block by block, match them to the IEPs. It is a daunting process of hundreds of hours and work.
Will the implementation of the Act 173
was
is
supposed to
implemented, it
eliminate
would
time
eliminate this?
studies. Right, then we're just gonna get the block grant of money.
Right,
but
which is another
it could be-
challenge. Okay, just keep it up to date, Christine, thanks. Thanks,
Yeah.
Matt.
Yeah, no, and I think this is important to have a discussion about in the future. Here's what one of my concerns are, and I hope not to offend anybody by this, but at the end of the day, if we have all these SU employees that are staying specific, let's just take Rutland Town, and they're at Rutland Town. I saw we had some coaches through the SU that are here at West Rutland. So the fact that the entire school is pitching in, generally the teachers, the paras, they're covering lunch, and to think the SU employees are then suddenly not going to and it's getting billed back, I find that almost unacceptable. So one person did explain to me, well, the special educators often only have a half an hour for lunch and they have nothing else going on. So I don't know what's going on this year. We'll see what happens. But at the same time, I can't tell you how many people have come to me and said, every time I'm in the school, the special educators are walking around with nobody doing nothing. So I'm being told on the one hand, they're super busy, and then on the other hand, I have people saying every time I'm in the hallway and I'm stopping by the school, I'm running into these certain people. So some stuff just doesn't match up. I've heard it from board members. But anyway, so the only thing that I'm saying is that if everybody's in the school and under a roof, everybody should be pitching in. And I don't think the bill back should really necessarily be going on, because I think you guys are spending more time tracking all this. I think you're doing it under the law because you're required to. So if that changes.
Let's make sure that's
You're
clear.
doing it under the law, so hopefully that change does take
Yeah.
effect, but my only purpose in saying this, everybody's under the roof, you're at this school, everybody should be pitching in, and it gets to be absurd after a while. To be doing the bill back. So someone was talking to me a while ago about whether it's creative to have them at lunch with the person they're with, but at the same time, they're still there for the lunchroom as well. Someone thought that was inappropriate, but
It really depends on the individual, what the IEP states and what you can do and how that works. I mean, so, everything is, again, we're matching up student hours and times and IEPs to schedules. But I agree with you, Matt. I think, I do appreciate, I think everyone can benefit. You can learn a lot about kids by being in the lunchroom. You can also, having staff in the lunchroom can eliminate a lot of problems. Those people being aware of that. So, I mean, it is a give and take, and I think it's if you're comfortable with that, that's fine. I just want everyone to understand that's where, some of these costs, and it's really, I think, a decision that you make. But, I do, it is hard to say, well, these people don't have to do it and these do. But
and we're
it's
gonna
also
be,
very different
special
schedules
ed.
and very different, things they're doing where they don't have the other times where, kids are at art or music, or in those free times, they're pretty much always should be directly working with kids.
I think the other part is too, though, we've done this to ourselves. We have pushed general ed paras almost out the door by saying that we have to have special ed paras because we must have the most trained with our students. And that's happened when we've sat here during budgeting. The superintendent came and said, general paras are kind of a thing in the past. Paras that we have today need to have a higher skilled.
Special ed paras as much as we can, and have students get their services by teachers and staff. The use of a gen ed versus a special ed para, I think, again, they're different purposes. Special ed is meeting an IEP service and has to do that. Gen ed para is just supporting all kids within your school building.
So, I just wanted to add real quick.
Question
Go ahead.
On 173, my understanding is the secretary put out 2 notices that they weren't going to do the reimbursement this year. They were going to do the block grant of 173. They were going to start paying on that portion, even though they didn't have everything else in line yet. And then 173 was supposedly delayed. Has he rescinded that directive on payment?
Not that I've seen anything on. I know this document, and I haven't read it, just came, I printed out today.
It just came, yeah.
To,
got
I
it.
haven't read it yet,
Guidance on
but
it
this is just talking about, summary of technical guidance on Act 173, but I haven't gotten through that yet, Clarence, so this went out today.
So one thing we're doing up in Rutland Town right now, we have to confront the issue with the duties because of the contract, but we may consider adding a float up there to cover recesses, lunches, for 4 hours a day, 5 days a week. So we're looking at 20 hours, gonna be somebody part-time. We may have to do that, school size and everything gonna be dependent. And it's interesting because I was chatting about with some other people is that you don't wanna just put paras on the playground, because if they're not around the kids all the time, they may miss little things. They understand where certain kids that maybe you should kept an eye on. So at least in the discussion that I just had yesterday and today that I thought was interesting is that it can be helpful to get a float, but you also want to keep the teachers or the special educators in there in the lunchrooms or on the recess, because they understand the children, they understand how to deal with them all the time. So anyway, we'll be dealing with this in the next couple of weeks when we come back for our board meeting. So, but one of the ways that districts can do it is offset it with one float, and that way on the playground, for example, there's 2 teachers, well, you have 1 floater there and 1 teacher, and it cuts down on the cost. The same would be true in the cafeteria, but certainly it wouldn't make sense to have a special educator in there at $60 an hour covering that as a bill back. It makes sense to have somebody in there instead at $14 an hour.
I mean, how many teachers does each school need? If they have to do 3 duties a week, do they typically, how has it worked? Have they done usually both lunch and recess, or no?
It's interesting, I looked for the term definition of duties, and there was none in the contract. So does that mean 30 minutes? And I was just waiting for someone to tell me, well, that covers a 30-minute lunch and I'm out of here, not the 2-hour block for the lunch and the recess. So it hasn't necessarily been defined, but this is when you expect the district to work.
I would just think, based on the number of teachers that are in the building, based on 3 duties, that there should be enough if you do the math, rather than having, I don't particularly love the idea of having to hire somebody exactly for the reasons that you just said. I think it's gonna be really hard to find somebody to do that
It
job.
worked fine before. and there
But
was
see,
only
here's the
one
problem. A
duty
lot of those
week.
people in the building are now on the SU side that traditionally were on the school side. So now if we put them on a duty and put them into the lunchroom, they're billing us back to our district for that special educator at, say, 60 an hour to stand in the lunchroom. And now Rutland Town has to pay that in addition, back to the SU.
That has nothing to do with being on the SU, that's just special ed.
Right, that's
allowable
special.
Oh, it's special ed, I'm
special
sorry,
ed.
yes. Yeah, it's not SU, but it's,
So I
It
think
wouldn't
this is
matter whether they're
something
hired by you or.
that as we go forward.
yeah, I'm sorry,
with-
I always pick it on, I always feel like everybody there from the SU is.
As we go
it's not.
forward with the implementation of 177, we'll be looking at, how is this, how are we gonna change the way we do things with special ed paras, and what is the need? And we really kind of need to look at it hopefully for budget time and the duties. And I think as time goes on, you're gonna see that maybe there are solutions, and some of the anxiety about all the duties is going to dissipate a little bit. We have to remember, today was the first day of school, and everybody gets really elevated, all the administrators, all the teachers, because you want everything to go well. And then when you get a last minute thing like a contract that gets ratified the first day of school, it's a lot to digest, but they work it out. And most of the principals I talked to today had said, yep, we've got a plan, we're gonna be okay. But I do think as we go forward and we have the Act 177 things, we're gonna have to, did I say the wrong number?
173.
173.
Okay, 173. I should remember that one. That we'll come up with a plan and probably bring it back at the board level, the local board level. And then also when we're looking at the budget, maybe propose some different ways of staffing.
It's interesting. So let me ask you a question, and for either Judy or Lewis, if we have someone that's, say, a coach and it's, here at West Rutland School, is that person then providing services in lunch and recess?
The coaches are not on a union contract.
They're
Are you
not
referring
on-
to the PBL coaches?
Well, we have the GRCSU contract that's coming up for ratification tonight with the union.
The
so
4 PBL coaches that work under Lisa are not union employees.
They're not union employees. So do we have any SU employees in any school that aren't participating in the duties? The only reason I say that is because we're going to be looking at a contract that calls on the GRCSU, those people who are covered under that contract, that they cover 3 duties a week.
Currently, there's only 6 teachers that are not covered under the bargaining unit, and they're moving to the bargaining unit as part of the ratification. So once they move, then all teachers at the SU, there's 6 teachers at the SU. Once they become union employees, they should be following the same.
So those are the only people under the SU side, so it's going to be,
The only other people that would come under the GRCSU that would be
Or
the
special
people in
ed.
your building, that are not under the teacher's contract are your OTs and PTs. because they don't fall under teacher.
And they're outside of it as
contract,
well.
So they're not covered under the contract. But
Perfect. All right. Thank you, guys.
but you'll see a lot of teachers.
Anything else? Anyone has monthly budget? Louis, Christine?
Is there anything that we need to know in the SU forecast? Just put it in there.
Yeah, I didn't really talk about that yet, I guess, I forgot. Right now I'm showing a surplus of $62,000. That does include the severance package that we had to pay out. The reason we're still showing surplus is we do have a position that's budgeted that's not filled. That's the grant writer position that's budgeted at $60,000. So if that position's filled, that would lower,
You did say that this does reflect the severance?
yes. And then if there's any change in the superintendent position, that would also change this as well. The cost of superintendent search is not included in this. I don't know what that cost is at this point.
So we shouldn't feel so great. We should
Well,
be careful still.
I mean, we're already 2 months in and we haven't filled that grant writer position, so, I mean, we'll have savings from that. I don't think we have any great leads on a person, so I'd imagine there's gonna be savings on that position.
Greg's not here, but is the website up so all our minutes are making it in a timely fashion? Within the 7-day rule?
I think that's still a work in progress, is my understanding.
Well, what she is doing is right now she's trying to update the current website because it takes months to build a new one. But we have made corrections, like make it easier to find, updating board members, updating staff members like me.
Board members still aren't updated as of today.
Really, because I gave it to her the other day.
No.
So I will check on that. Lisa.
I'm sure she's been working on back to school.
Yeah, and this week, I hope everybody understands, and I know you do, like the 3 days, the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, they are just crunch time to open school for everyone, from custodians to right across the board. I mean, we're all out there and doing things, so things might get dropped a little bit. But I did get I made sure that it got in their hands, the update of all the board members, especially Quarry Valley, because we just had a new board member added, and went through it with Wendy, and then she passed it on. So it's been done in our office, just has to get out there.
Can we go back to the grant writer? So are there no applicants at all?
I don't think there's, and I was gonna ask that, if we could repost that job again. and-
Okay, repost that. I asked Corinne to call me so I could talk to her about it and maybe get some more background too.
And you guys, should line up and chat about that.
Yeah.
I think we just reposted, my understanding was the applicants, there was 2, wasn't gonna work. And, so anyway, that position is now remaining unfilled at the moment. I don't think we should give up on it. If it
Yep.
ends up, ultimately being a surplus, but we should at least try and put it out there for rehire again. It's a rather unique position, and it's showing that in the applicants that have shown up for
Yep.
that, so.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question on that? At what point would we want to stop looking for applicants and maybe consider something else, like a consultant who writes grants?
My thought is, would there be any objection to putting it out there to post one more time, see what we get, and then at that point,
Yeah.
figuring it out, if we end up
Agreed.
with the same lack of people.
Because I think there's hundreds
I was just
of
shocked that
grant
no one.
writers that would want to do it
Like
national. Yeah, more as like a like a lot of
Right.
grant writers.
Well, I was thinking
think
the
it
other
is
thing is,
unusual to find like a position in the school that's a grant writer. Like, we may have better luck because a lot of grant writers have their own companies and their own businesses, and that's what they do, and they work with, all different, schools, not-for-profits. So we may get better applicants if we would approach it that way.
And I think the other thing is, we've seen that you guys gotta at least talk anyway about where someone might apply. So if I was a grant writer and looking for a job, where am I going? So it's most likely gonna be monster.com, or one of those online job sites. They're not gonna be on School Spring, that's for
Correct.
sure. I'm pretty sure a
Agreed.
grant writer is not
Correct.
gonna be looking, so.
That's right.
I'm not sure where Deborah did advertise last time, but
That's a
that's an
good point,
indicator
Matt.
that we may need to look at other advertising means
I
for
would
jobs and
suggest that
postings.
right away, because you're absolutely right. I think we're probably missing them by where we're advertising. That's a very good point.
She did do something, it wasn't just School Spring, though. She put something out there, I want to say Craigslist, or, I forget, but she threw it out there somewhere in the Rutland Herald. I forgot where it went, but it went somewhere. It wasn't
That's
just School Spring,
hysterical.
but we're moving up in the world, we're going to Craigslist, job opening.
Maybe the Granville Free
I don't even know, I don't even want to know where you're meeting
Yeah,
up
we
for
can
that.
But anyway, I think that was an indicator, we gotta do something there, so.
So can we put a time restraint on how, what does that mean we're putting it out? 90 days? Because we're at 62, but depending on where we go with superintendent, we may need that 60, which to me is a higher priority at this point than grant writer. So can we put
I thought
a,
is we just post that within the next 30 days, you guys talk about where that's done, and then we discuss who shows up again.
okay,
Because we only had like 1.5 person
Sure.
show up last
I mean,
time.
I just, if we are able to find a grant writer, I mean, it is, if you're, I understand what you're saying, but we could potentially get somebody that could bring in like $3 million a
I'm all
year.
for that,
is
yeah.
like, and could solve maybe potentially some
might
of
be
the
able to
issues we
feed all
talk
our
about.
$1 million.
All right, I'm moving on from this one. Superintendent search, my thought is, we'd move that to executive session at the end, but do you guys want to discuss that? I am just, names are gonna start getting thrown around and,
well, that's not good in
Is there any
open
other
session.
work
Yeah.
that we have to?
no, I'll get to that, and that's just next on the agenda that you approved, so. Anyway, the consent agenda drives me crazy.
Job descriptions, we don't have those, so that's coming forward at the next meeting.
Correct, that
Yeah, great.
tabled or whatever.
We can table that.
Perfect.
All right,
So, and the other thing is, I just had this down, and I'll just do this, I'll throw it in there.
We moved the superintendent search to executive session, right?
We're going to, yeah, we'll finish that at the end and then let him get out of here for this evening. We'll do the contract to finish up. The one thing I just wanted to add is, we'll approach this here in the next couple of months, but I think our tech department needs to have another person or two added in there. So I just hope budget season that we get that, up and running. But anyway, when you start to see that we're looking at, Bennington's twice the size for a district that's actually in the neighborhood of us, we've run into some issues with tech, and I think we've certainly been fiscally responsible with it. But I think at some time, with all the work that's due out there, all the scrambling that's going on with every school from Poultney to Rutland Town and merging the districts and then put it on a tech department with half the employees of another district of the same size, I just think it's time that we at least consider adding another person or two, anyway, to that position. So anyway, but that'll come up. That was the only thing I had down. So anyway, so it makes sense, I think, at this point to move to the ratification and adoption of the master agreement for the GRCSU, because I think we have to do it here at this board meeting as well, if I'm not mistaken.
so moved.
So you're gonna make a motion to approve the master agreement?
I am.
Perfect. Do I have a second to that motion?
Second.
I have a second by Tim. Any discussion on that here? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye. So that is every member except for Clarence and Laura? Am I correct?
No, I'm in the affirmative.
What's that?
I voted yes.
You voted yes, so it's only Clarence that voted no, correct?
So 9-1.
So that was 9-1, and the motion passes. Do we have to do the side letters on this
Yes.
level? So do I have a motion to approve the side letters for retirement?
I'll move to, Clarence,
And-
move to approve the two side letters.
That would be for recognition and retirement. Seconded by Jim. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? No oppositions? Motion carries unanimously. It's approved. Last motion for the evening. Do I have one to go into executive session?
Before we leave
I
for
just, yeah, I
executive
wanted to
session,
bring up something.
I'd like to remind everybody that the Regional School Boards Association meeting for this area will be held on September 10th at Otter Valley, 5 o'clock. You can register online. Feel free to attend. There'll be some information, and exact program is not completely set yet. We'll be electing one representative to the board. The person currently serving in that position is Linda, and she's indicated she'd like to continue, so her name will be put forward, but there may be others. But members get to vote that night and ask questions. You've all got notified that the executive director is leaving in November, and they're in the process of searching for a new one, and there's a lot of stuff going on.
And they feed you at the meeting too.
What?
They'll feed you at the meeting also.
Yes, there's going to be food that we're going to pay for.
We're gonna pay for it anyway, it's just an
So you
enticement to go.
you can show, when you have to show up at 5 or 5:30, you're skipping supper. It may not be that high class, but it will be food.
It's usually pretty good.
Perfect. So 5:30.
It's usually pretty good.
Yeah.
So,
Green.
I was hoping, it just kind of came to my mind as I was looking over the superintendent's report, just on the bottom, to work on over the course of this year. And I know this kind of pertains to the handbook specifically, but I would like to see, I think, a lot of time. Last year, we were here until 11:30 discussing a lot of issues like the grading system, curriculum, the student-centered learning model, dismissals on Tuesdays, kind of what they're doing for professional development. I would really like to kind of discuss some of those things and what we feel about, specifically. I will just say, I can speak for myself. When I am approached all the time, as I'm sure many of you are, by families in your schools, I think that there is mainly an attitude of people not being super happy with a lot of different things, mainly the grading, some of the curriculum on the Chromebooks too much, not enough writing, not enough homework. So I would kind of like to, I don't know if those are specifically school board issues for your specific schools, or if that's something, Matt, that we would want to get into here.
No, I think we should get into it, and I think a good month to do it is actually next month. And the only reason
Before
we'll
the
follow up
budget.
with you, we get a chance, you've gotten in here, starting to get an idea of what's happening, but we could follow up with you next month. And the reason I say that, we're not gonna start the budget till usually October. That's when we're gonna start looking at preliminary numbers and whatnot.
Next month,
so-
we'll look at the timeline and talk about parameters and direction, and then October, you'll get the first draft.
Yep, exactly. So anyway, so it seems like next month might be a light month to take up that issue again up here on the SU. Does that make sense to people?
And is there any way that we can get, I kind of felt a little unsatisfied, is there a way that we can get some sort of report on academically how things look and how each school is performing and how district-wide things are going? Because I think
Actually,
it can be done.
Next month in September, Lisa's doing a report on the school snapshot for all the boards, which is the state's annual snapshot, and it's the first time it's come out, so that's a start. And
That would be local boards,
That's
not
local
here.
boards. We'll do it at the local board level, because each board will get theirs.
And when I was here in June, you had asked me to come back in September to talk
Right.
about PLC time, the 2
Yep.
o'clock Tuesday time, and how we're using that this year.
Yep, so you will get those reports from Lisa.
And so this year is gonna be interesting, because I think we're all on the maps. So we'll be able to start to look at that data now across the district instead of being half.
Yes.
So anyway, so that'll be coming through. But anyway, so we should follow up on that discussion, certainly. And it sounds like September, our
We've
next
already
meeting.
got that.
I think,
On agendas, actually.
Matt, we have, under new business, I think we have one more thing that we need to, I would move that we have the superintendent notify the, serve notice on our unions that it's time to negotiate the master agreement for the next year. I believe that it's supposed to happen in September,
I think so.
so let's serve notice on them. Give us a
I feel like we
date.
just finished negotiations.
We did.
Oh, my gosh.
Just did tonight.
Well, it's fresh in our mind how we don't want to be taken to the cleaners again. It's a good time to do it.
Yep.
So therefore, I will make that a motion that the superintendent notify the union that we need the dates to start negotiating the master agreement. Probably both of them. I think they both expire, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So notify the appropriate people.
Perfect, I love it. And the last thing
Second?
before I'll take a motion.
Second.
Sorry. Do we have to do that as a formal
He
motion?
did, yeah,
All
to
right.
show, yeah.
Do it. Why not? So I have a
Clarence,
seconded by Lisa. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
You should probably say what the motion was on the recorder, because I don't know that she caught that.
Superintendent to notify the labor unions of their intent to negotiate a new master agreements.
Perfect.
Yep,
And then
I got
last, before, I'll take, what's that? Do you need some more?
No, I'm
Anything
good.
else? Okay, I'm like, I thought you were asking. So anyway, but the last thing I had before we you take that motion for executive session, I wanted to thank Judy for coming in here and helping us out.
Absolutely.
We were going to be in a huge situation here, and right now she's given us the breathing room to be able to look for superintendents, to conduct a thorough search. And so anyway, we're going to go in and discuss that, but I think more importantly, she came into the district, and I've heard great things from the people working with her, and also for yourself, Lisa. So anyway, but thank you, Judy, for coming in. We
You're
really
welcome.
appreciate it. You gave us
been a pleasure.
some wiggle room that we needed here to take the time to hire a superintendent instead of grabbing the first available body that came along. So
Right.
thank you for doing that.
We'll get George.
On very short notice, too, and a cell phone call from Clarence, so I appreciate that.
All right. Motion to move into executive session for personnel.
Seconded by Corinne. Beat you to it, Jim. All those in favor? Those opposed?
That was
Unanimous.
Lisa.
That was Lisa.
Lisa
Yep.
and Jim.
I
Agree.
put it on
I
the
mean,
calendar.